Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Wargame. Last week I featured a video where somebody flanked all the way around on this map. They used up quite a lot of fuel going from Delta all the way across the flank of the map, ended up right here, crossed the bridge, ended in the spawn, and murdered everything inside the spawn and then capped it. Now, you could argue that this is the most suitable area for that. Atlas over here would beg to differ, and he's going to try the same thing over here. You can see that he very ambitiously put his attack marker all the way up here in the north, so he has a long way to go. Interestingly, he is using a Scandinavian armored deck. Now, why Scandinavian? Well, the STRV-103C is one of the very few tanks, and I think the only tank at higher level that can actually swim. This is an amphibious tank with a 25 kph autonomous speed, or amphibious speed. Sure, it's not going to get anywhere fast, but at least it can cross rivers if you have to. He's going in with the 103C, a recon vehicle, 2 LVKV-90s for AA, and a command tank. Now the command tank is mostly there because, well, you have to buy one, or you have to have a command unit, and this way you can at least have it fight as well. The 103Cs don't generally have a lot of armor, nor a lot of AP, but they have a blistering rate of fire. 15 rounds a minute rate of fire allows these things to very quickly take down lighter vehicles. So if you have a group of infantry transports or some lighter tanks, then these things are ideal to very quickly get rid of those. First stop though is over here. We gotta counter whatever red throws this way. Hoping that it's not anything too heavily armored. Although at this range, the STRV-103C with its 16 AP gun should have enough firepower to punch clean through whatever comes this way. If he doesn't, then his bigger buddy might, the M1A2. Interestingly, once again, it is 10v10 tactical, and this guy has not upvetted his M1A2 either to veteran or even all the way to elite. Oh well. LVKV-90s in the meanwhile traversing bridge to the left and immediately spotting an Z5 helicopter. And not just that. It looks like Lenny over here is bringing a whole column of Chinese vehicles. Now the LVKV-90 is very suitable to dealing with these, again, lighter vehicles. Great rate of fire, 40mm autocannon, 3 AP, 1.5 HE, bit of armor on the sides, bit of armor on the front. It's not going to survive a seed missile. Not at all. It's not going to survive a tank encounter, but if you have a whole bunch of these lighter vehicles, open up and let them have it. Unfortunately, recon leaves a little bit to be desired at this point, and while he is capable of suppressing and killing off quite a few of these vehicles, he doesn't quite have the vision on it. So he's moving his EPBV-90 over in order to help with the spotting. And Lenny's Zanshi and the ZST-63s are just clean out caught in the open. Unfortunately, these are not too expensive. They're just 5 points each, they come with machine gun, and aside from that, they don't do anything too useful. The Zanshi, with their RPGs, could pose a problem to the vehicles that Greg has. That is, if they come too close. But at this point, there's no talk of that, and these two, well, originally AA guns, just massacred the whole column, without any assistance from a tank, any assistance from an IFV, or any assistance from a fire support vehicle whatsoever. It's just a bunch of AA guns. Time to cross this bridge. EPBV-90 first, the tanks later, although, let's be honest, who needs a bridge? Why not take your tank for a swim? And that's exactly what he's doing, and it's still really weird to see these things do it. Especially since it's doing it in reverse. I mean, what the hell? I think the game doesn't even quite know what to do with it, because the tracks seem to be glitching through, or at least the drive wheels are. But the tanks don't need to cross the bridge. They just traverse the water. Aircraft flies over, immediately gets dissuaded from using this airspace and even killed off by the LVKV-90s. For some reason then, an SU-27 spawns in. But I'm not really sure why, because these planes responded to the SU-27. And it seems like this guy might be going for a gun run. That is a very ambitious fighter, flying directly over enemy anti-air, while being engaged by a couple of elite fighters / seed aircraft. And again, this thing, it's a rookie. A rookie Su-27. For God's sake, if you're going to be using a deck in tactical, make sure it has veterancy. Otherwise, you just lose a very expensive 200-point jet. Well, without scoring any kind of kills. And sure enough, Blue lost one jet by Yakuza there. But that was down to the AA infantry that's inside these buildings. Which, other than catching the stray helicopter or potentially an airplane that ventures off too far like you just saw, it's not going to be doing any real damage. Now for some reason we also have a scout defender over here. Probably to defend against helo rushes from that flank or other sides of incursions. And as far as I've been able to tell, Atlas over here has not lost any units yet. Even despite the gun run from the LVKV-90, or sorry, on the LVKV-90, and the airstrike that he had to endure earlier, these things have taken some damage, but they're alive. Many other AA guns could not say the same. So he has his little band of, of skirmishers / flanking forces on the side. Let's see what the rest of the map is doing. Quite a few already seem to be leaving. I mean, it's a 10v10. It wouldn't be a 10v10 without people leaving. Red seems to be surprisingly docile. There's not a whole lot going on. It does seem like the M1A2 died. I only see a Leclerc and a Merkava 3. Oh, sorry, there it is. There's the M1A2. And score-wise, Blue is already, after just 5 minutes, 700 points ahead of Blue 4. So exactly why that happened, or how that happened, I mean, sure, they shot down an expensive plane. That was Yakuza. Atlas already got a couple of kills from the Chinese column, which was heading into this industrial area. But aside from that, I don't really see any major points. Now take note of these, of the Hellcats in here. Somebody decided to send not just 4 or 8, but a whole 20 M18s in here. I really hope we can see these things actually do battle. That would be hilarious. Darkstar over here. M18s, hopelessly outdated. Entered service in 1951, or at least this variant according to the game. 50% accuracy is pretty good. Not really something you'd expect from a vehicle this old. AP is quite good if you're fighting lighter vehicles, not exactly tanks. But just generally sneeze in their direction and they get destroyed. Anyway, back to Atlas over here. He does have some... Oh, he has a couple of K9 Thunders. But he must have inherited those from somebody who left. Because these are not exactly native to the Scandinavian armored deck. Anyway, we can see a T-80 UK coming in, especially the infantry that out here seems to be a priority target. Merkava 3 is engaging, might be able to catch them ahead of time. But what I don't exactly get is why Red 4 is now sending in Spetsnaz. If you wanted to clear these buildings, sure, that would make sense. But at this point, I think that they being Red 4, assume that the buildings are captured. Since Red does not have any units over here, seeing as the presence of the Bedouins would have spotted those, Red might be trying to flush out infantry from buildings which are already empty. Which goes to show that their level of reconnaissance is not great. Anyway, back to left, where the Amphibial 101 is going to be required to either fix up some of these units or fuel them up. Because as you can see, this one is starting to run a little low on fuel. The 103C seems fine, still got half a fuel tank left. And yes, he is fueling these things up and fixing them up. I think 800 points of supplies is going to go fast, especially if you want to put all these things back together. And hopefully the 103C or 103B can still make it over. Good use of smoke here in order to push in for Blue. The M1A2 versus T-80 UK is not a fair fight for the M1A2. The M1A2 is going to have a good advantage there. The Spetsnaz are not going to have a good time. If they try to fire that RPO at the M102 or M1A2, I think they're going to need a lot of ammo. And yes, here comes the raid of the Hellcats. One problem that the Hellcats do have is a lack of fuel. They have a fuel autonomy of 200 kilometers, which just goes really fast. Speaking of going really fast, these things take 100 kilometer speed off-road. That's something that a lot of modern tracked vehicles are quite jealous of. But then again, if you have absolutely zero armor, I suppose that speed is, well, part of your defensive capabilities. Now, the Swedes seem to have been resupplied, mostly. EPV or EPBV90 pushing up. STV-103C does need a bit of repair. Unfortunately, the Amphibill does not have that much left to give. He's fueling up this thing. The AA guns are mostly operational, or at least mostly healthy. And there goes the 101. It's now empty. He might... No, he's just providing flanking security. Okay, so we can see some defenses thrown up by Red. Seems to be more of a haphazard defense than any real structural defense. I mean, you wouldn't really throw out a Factoria unless you were expecting only light vehicles, or if you were short on points. And seeing how few sectors Red has, I think it's the latter. I think they're low on points. Schmitz surrenders, and look at this. ZTZ-88 Alpha gets detected. Immediately wipes out one LVKV. LVKV fires at the tank Shushu. But it's the command tank who saves this guy's hide and actually takes out the ZTZ over there. So a command tank, sure, it's worth 150 points. It might be a very valuable unit that you'd not really want to squander. But it can definitely fight, even despite the fact that it does not have the best AP. There goes Lenny. I think that was the guy who not only had the infantry but also the Chinese tank up here. And it's just, at this point, almost GG for Red. I really don't know exactly how these guys were able to get this far. They just encountered very, very little resistance. Now, seeing the Red 4 units, I'd say Red had a lack of reconnaissance. They didn't seem to know that these buildings were empty. They seemed to be unaware that you need to have high veterancy vehicles in a match like this. And I'm not really sure what they did aside from, I don't know, throwing a lot of expensive units away. They've scored 575 points. Somebody has scored 205, 170, 135, and 65. We got a whole 5 players who have done jack shit in this whole game. Nothing. But then again, this... Oh, high value targets over here. This is how 10v10s, especially tacticals, can go. I don't think that the teams were especially unbalanced. I just think that Red made some really weird choices. Sending in an issue 27 PU with very little veterancy is just asking for disaster. So let's wrap up and check out the scores. Alright, Atlas scored 780 points and lost only 50. And yes, it is not as good as the gameplay that I put up last Friday. Still, he killed a lot of stuff with an unexpected unit like the LVKV-90. First a helicopter, then a whole bunch of transports, and then the infantry. Even a J7H, that was the plane. That was the plane that was trying to evac, and then at the last possible second got shot down. LVKV-90, another infantry and reconnaissance vehicle. STRV-103C, Factoria, transport, tank Shushu, Conquerors, and Neva. Just a whole bunch of stuff. And then, interestingly, the command tank. Took out a tank and a bunch of vehicles, I think, in the last possible moments of the game. Because I think that this was the first kill of that unit, the ZTZ-88A. Anyway, this is just another way of flanking on this game. Always be aware of your flanks. Because if I put up a video and a couple of days later this process gets repeated, not me putting up another video, I mean, yeah, that's making sense that that gets repeated. No, the fact that you can actually flank, and this time not bringing a super heavy or any really heavy tank, but just a bunch of Swedish medium tanks. Anyway, that's it for the vid. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, and if you like my content, then please become a Patreon supporter. Even for as little as just $5 a month, you can really help me out. Saves you maybe one visit to Starbucks a month, but for me, especially with the numbers, it really, really adds up. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you have any good replays, be sure to send those in. I'll be happy to feature them, especially more 3v3 and 4v4 games. If it's an interesting game, send it in, because I need a couple more of those. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you soon for the next one.